Hey everyone, so just a reminder, my topic is, or my focus, I guess, was supposed to be about how in 2002 Oregon voted about 71% to 30 or to 29% to remove the racial language from the Constitution. And this is something that had been up for, had been a ballot measure before and had failed. So in 2002, they finally passed it. And then so my question, and I guess my whole paper now, because it's kind of hard to find information just on that. So my paper's really going to be framed as the larger historical um, information, I guess, as to why, as like what could explain what took so long to remove that language, such as um, yeah, so Oregon Constitution refers to the state's white population, white inhabitants, free Negroes, and mulattoes, um, and just why it took so long to get rid of that, and why maybe some counties voted so highly against it. Um, so for I got a book actually on one specific county, and it's here, Jackson County. They actually voted really highly in favor of removing this language. And so these are kind of what the book's pages look like, or in here. So obviously is not what the book is like. It's an actual book, but it's interesting because it has some primary stuff in it, but it also has some explanation for that stuff, and talks about not just Black people in Oregon, because they weren't the only ones that were listed in the language to be removed. Um, they were the only ones like completely excluded at the beginning, but well, and mulattoes too, I think. But it also talks about the Chinese and Native Americans and Jews also. So that's I really like this because it goes through everything, like each experience, I guess, separately. Um, and then it also has a whole section on the KKK's presence in Jackson County, especially in the 1920s when it was really huge in Oregon. So this is a really interesting book. It also has pictures in the back too, a lot of pictures, which is kind of fun. Mostly of the Chinese in Jackson County, but there's some other stuff too. And then my other book that I found is A Peculiar Paradise, A History of Blacks in Oregon from 1788 to 1940, which I've realized is kind of a cutoff date for a lot of the stuff that I found. Um, for some reason, 1940 is like the end of Black history in Oregon. I mean, not actually, but from all the sources, you would kind of think so, because a lot of them only go through 1940 or 1945, like the World War II era. This one obviously stops just short of that, but this one's good because it covers, like, it's the history of Blacks in Oregon. So it covers a lot of stuff, how national decisions affected people in Oregon, and as you get closer to the 1940 end point there, they talk a lot about how prejudiced the state was, and relate it back to civil rights issues and stuff like that. It also has a strong um, section, I guess, on the KKK in Portland and how it thrived so much in the 1920s, and then also Jim Crow segregation, and just how, I guess, how similar it was to the South in a lot of ways, as far as the segregation is concerned. And then this source is The Great Migration, the Afro-American Communities of Seattle and Portland. So this one's cool because it focuses on Portland, which I think is going to be probably, I mean, it's going to have to be a lot of my focus because it's the biggest city. So there's a lot more info on Portland than other parts of the state. But the first part is mostly on Seattle. The second part does talk a lot about Portland and just how how much the population increased during World War II of the Black community, and we talked about that in class also, like, and why, like, the employment was, there was economic reasons and stuff like that, and then how the city, I guess, how they dealt with that. There was a lot of intraracial tension between Black people that were already here and the Black people coming. A lot of them came from the South, and there was some tension between that, between those two groups, as far as like leadership in the Black community was concerned, especially. And then it also talks about how Portland built communities to house all these new people that were coming in, and that one of the communities, the Vanport um, community, I guess, was, there was a lot of it was a lot of the population living there was African American, and in the 1940s, the late 1940s, the city flooded, and all those people were displaced, and it ended up contributing to the rise in the Black population in the Albina district, which I think is still like that. Maybe not so much now. I think it's becoming gentrified a lot, but just so that kind of sets up how the city's organized now. And then my other source that's really interesting is about the Black Panther Party in Oregon and its experience and how the local media responded to it, which was interesting. It wasn't really, they didn't really touch on it that much in Oregon, even at the time when it was a huge national issue, and it was all over the national news, but not really the local news here. So that was kind of cool. They actually call it the most racist city outside the South. So that was interesting. But anyway, so my paper is going to focus a lot on the history of Blacks in Oregon and other minorities in Oregon because I kind of have to. But I'm going to use it as an explanation for, like, to explain why it took so long. So I'm going to relate it back to my topic, but that's kind of where it's going to end up focusing on.